Guess what? It's banana time. We are going to paint this rather simple banana because you gotta crawl before you can walk, you gotta walk before you can run. We're gonna take a look at some of the itty bitty details that really make a painting, that zooming in gets you, like some of these very fine white lines. Gonna take a look at drawing what you see, not what you know, and paying attention to the way a light is hitting an object. So I'm going to create a new file, and I want it to be rectangular. I can see down here the size of my reference image is 1000 by 753. I'm going to go something a little bit bigger. I typically work with at least 4000 or 3000 pixels in either of these dimensions to give me a lot of nice definition, give me room to really zoom in and make those details work. So I'm going to hit create. And if it opens up in this popped out window, I've popped out my banana. I did open that in Photoshop because I'm going to be using the eyedropper tool. I'm just going to drag this back in. See how that blue light lights up? And that's the banana I wanted to drag in my canvas. We can do that too, don't worry. Wait for it. There we go. Pop the banana back out. All right, so let's zoom out. First things I need to do is, I don't want to be working on my background. I want to work on a new layer. And this is where we get to what you see versus what you know. I could come in and say, oh, a banana is yellow. I should start with bright yellow. But that's not the case. That's a case of drawing what you know, not what you see. If I'm not working with a reference, this might be fine, but this is actually way too bright. If I'm drawing what I know, there's my banana. Lovely little stem. That's not what I've got going on here. So I'm actually going to come over with my eyedropper tool into my reference. I'm going to pick a mid-tone, something in between my darkest parts and my highlights. I've got a nice highlight here. I've got some shadow down here. I've got a weird green up here that's kind of a shadow. So I'm going to shoot for something in the middle, like that. And notice that's a much more desaturated steps down from the bright, bright yellow I picked. I'm going to be making like a quick sketch of the banana before I block in the flats. Let's come over to our brush. Your brush, as always, has a couple different settings. Typically, you're going to stick with soft or round. As you get more comfortable with this, we'll talk about the pressure opacity brushes and some of the other cool effect brushes. You can, in fact, mess with the shape of your round brush. Right now it starts off as a circle, but if you're like me and you like to sketch with kind of a calligraphy looking brush, you can do that. It's kind of like thick and thin, up to you. For this one, I'm just going to kind of stick with soft round, size 62. That's fine. And I'm just going to eyeball what I see in my reference. I can see that the banana top is about 2/3 of the way across. So I'm going to come back over here and just kind of start to sketch that shape in. And I want to make sure I'm drawing what I see, not what I know. It's not a straight up rectangle. It's got this weird little point, and I can use my bracket keys on the fly to make my brush bigger or smaller if I don't want to keep going up to that menu every single time, which I don't. And I'm just blocking that in. I'll come back and get some of those things like the brown stuff later. My banana starts to get wider. As for length, come over here. I know it ends somewhere over here. So I'm going to sketch that end in to kind of help me figure out where that curve is going. Does it come to more of a point? Not really. And we're going to swoop. And the other nice thing about this is if you create another layer on here, I'm not inviting you to trace. I'm just inviting you to help yourself understand. If I come up here, that can kind of give my hand the muscle memory of what that curve does. Now, obviously, I don't want to leave that stroke on there. But now when I come over here, I know, see how my hand knew to go up more? I know that that's there. And of course, I have my eraser to block out parts that go too far. So I'm going to come in, finish up that there banana. And it kind of slopes down over here, so I want to make sure I get that in. Curves around. I'm a very messy sketcher. Maybe you can freehand this all in one go, but I sure can't. And now I'm going to move to a larger brush to block in my flats. When you hear me talk about flats, all I mean is one color, no shading. So there is that banana. We're going to talk a little bit about how to refine your edges too. Don't worry. It's all coming together. And I'm going to shape this a little more with my eraser. I've noticed that my stem should come out more, maybe a little bit more narrow. And I want to make sure that I get these white spaces. Fun fact, we're actually going to take a second. We're going to go back to our background. It's very easy to miss white spaces like that, so I like to work with kind of a neutral background, like a blue-gray. I've gone up to Edit and Fill. This allows me to see any of those white spaces, so to speak. So there's my flat. First part, banana, donezo.